game titles suck, and these ones really suck. We've counted down the best, but now let's take a look at the worst, and my god, are there a lot to choose from. Since this is a topic that's been done by so many other people, I've made a rule that if I see a game on another list, it's immediately disqualified from this one, so don't expect to see the usual suspects like Jammer Lammy or Irritating Stick around these parts. Number 10. Lightning Force, Quest for the Dark Star. Oh, you heard me right, that's Lightning Force, not Lightning Force. See, it even says so on the title screen. If you don't know anything about this game, you may be wondering just what it is that makes the title so bad. Well, allow me to explain. You see, this game is actually the 4th entry in Technosoft's Thunder Force series, and in fact, it's known internationally as Thunder Force 4. Starting to see the issue yet? If this is just a rename of Thunder Force 4, why the hell is it called Lightning Force and not Lightning Force? You know, like thunder and lightning? That would actually make sense. Maybe this is just another case of English bleeding into a Western release, like how Gradius was actually supposed to be called Gladius after the Roman sword, but was made by Konami and they probably just didn't bother to check. But then we have the subtitle Quest for the Dark Star, and this is where the shit really hits the fan. So not only do we have a game called Lightning Force that's actually the US version of Thunder Force 4, drawing parallels between thunder and lightning, but we also have the Quest for the Dark Star bullshit, which draws parallels between light and dark. So which is it? I have no fucking idea. This title just sucks. The game's really good though. Number 9. Horizon Zero Dawn. I know I just reviewed this game and I really liked it, but the title is just absolute garbage. Now, I've got nothing against cool sounding titles that don't really mean anything. See Silhouette Mirage and Sin and Punishment from my last list, but you have to do it right. Horizon Zero Dawn is a clunky title that sounds as if it's the sequel to the original Horizon game, which doesn't actually exist. And yeah, I know Zero Dawn is the name of this huge plot point thing in the game, but that doesn't make it any more interesting. Come to think of it, they should have just called the game Horizon. It still would have been kind of bland, but at least it wouldn't be one of the worst titles I've ever heard. Right now, the game sounds like they got the title from one of those random video game title generators you find on the internet. Alright, the video game name generator. Click below to generate a video game name. Stupendous Viking Girl. No. Caribbean Polka Overdrive. Oh, that sounds like a good one. Celebrity Duck Invasion. Wow, I should really make that. And Horizon Zero Dawn. Fuck, called it. Number 8. Skate or Die, Bad and Rad.
The 80s called. They want their stupid title back.
Seriously, just how dated is that title? Just by hearing it, you know exactly what era it was released in. I'm gonna guess somewhere between 1988 and 1992?
Skate or Die was originally an NES game that, while holding a great deal of nostalgia for a lot of people, was more or less just a shitty skateboard game. Skate or Die, Bad and Rad for the Game Boy was pretty much more of the same, except with worse music, no color, and an even shittier title. Though I do have to admit these side-scrolling levels are actually kind of fun. For about 10 minutes.
And that's to say nothing about the sequels released a few years later for the Game Gear, Skate or Die, Fresh and Fly, and Skate or Die, All That in a Bag of Chips. Never heard of them? That's because I made them up, but after hearing just how stupidly ridiculous Skate or Die, Bad and Rad is, I wouldn't put it past Konami to come up with those 90s cheese fests.
Number 7. Probotector. Probotector was a run-and-gun side-scroller for the NES in which you play as a robot going around killing other robots in the jungle, and this is just Contra with robots, isn't it? Yeah, what you're looking at is a European version of Contra that was heavily edited back when the game was first released. You see, back in the 1980s, and to some degree to this day, several European governments outright banned games that were deemed too violent, so in order to sell Contra to the EU, Konami had to tone down the ultra-violence of the original game. Not much more to say about this one, as it plays just like Contra, except with robots instead of humans, and it runs at a much slower speed due to the European PAL format.
So, wait, not only did Europe get a heavily modified version of the game that spits in the face of the original developer's vision, but they also got a game that runs about 10% slower than the original? You guys got shafted! Apparently they couldn't even keep the name Contra and instead had to come up with a shitty portmanteau of Robot and Protector, and thus we get Probotector and its Super Nintendo sequel, Super Probotector, both of which sound a lot less like games and more like something you'd find in an operating room.
Alright, nurse, we're ready to perform the operation. Scalpel. Gauze. Okay. Super Probotector. I said the Super Probotector! This is the regular Probotector!
Sorry.
And he's dead. You've killed him.
Number 6. Awesome Possum kicks Dr. Machino's butt.
Awesome Possum kicks Dr. Machino's butt.
I'm awesome.
Apparently they were pretty proud of that title.
Like Skate or Die, Bad and Rad, Awesome Possum Kicks Dr. Machino's Butt is a product of its time, taking two of the most prominent components of the early to mid-90s and smashing them together. The first being Sonic the Hedgehog, and the second being environmental responsibility.
I remember a lot of this crap being drilled into my head when I was a kid, with volunteers usually made up of hippies and high school students looking for an A, coming to my school to put on stupid presentations about how the earth is dying and I'm a horrible person for not recycling. And if you're in your 20s or 30s, I'm sure you remember similar crap going on.
Now take that level of cheesiness and lack of respect for the intelligence of children and make a shitty Sonic the Hedgehog clone out of it, and you've got Awesome Possum kicks Dr. Machino's butt.
And what's with the villain? Dr. Machino? Is this game saying that machines are the polar opposite of being environmentally friendly?
Newsflash, recycling requires the use of heavy machinery.
So, yeah, this game sucks, and the title's even worse. Moving on.
Number 5. Supersonic Aerobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars.
Try saying that 5 times fast. Supersonic Aerobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars. Supersonic Aerobatic... Fuck!
Supersonic Aerobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars is a soccer-like game in which you play on a team and use your car to try and bounce a ball into the goal.
So, here's a question for you. Does this game look familiar at all?
Yeah, it's Rocket League with a different name, but it's not exactly what you might be thinking. Unlike Lightning Force and Probotector, this isn't just the same game with a different name in a different region. No, this is actually a completely original game made by Psyonix for the PlayStation 3. Rocket League, the game you're almost certainly more familiar with, happens to be the sequel to Supersonic Aerobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars. Now, you may be asking yourself, if this is basically just an older version of Rocket League, a game that's incredibly successful and popular, why have I never heard of it? Well, maybe it's because it was exclusive to the PlayStation 3 and only as a downloadable game, or perhaps people just weren't ready for rocket-powered car soccer.
Or maybe it's because the title is overly long, hard to say, and even harder to remember. Clearly, Psyonix didn't think that the title was working, because if they did, Rocket League would have been called Supersonic Aerobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars 2, the Sockening, or some shit like that. Say what you will about the rest of the titles on this list, but at least they weren't so complicated and forgettable that they banished their games into the realm of obscurity and even caused people who have played the game to forget what it's called.
Number 4. Mobile Suit Gundam, Gundam vs. Zeta Gundam.
Mobile Suit Gundam, Gundam vs. Zeta Gundam is Gundam. Excuse me. Gundam.
Thankfully, not too much to say about this one, as it's just a third-person mech game based on the Mobile Suit Gundam and Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam animes. But Jesus Christ, that title! Look, we get it, it's a Gundam game, but maybe you could have come up with a different title, like, I don't know, one that doesn't use the word Gundam 3 fucking times?
Gundam, giant robot, Gundam. Gundam.
Number 3. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, The Ultimate Championship.
You fucking knew there was gonna be a Street Fighter game on this list.
Where do I even begin? At this point, Street Fighter is almost synonymous with stupid, overly complex titles for their games. But I think Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, The Ultimate Championship for the PlayStation 1 takes the cake.
Do you think that title's long enough? I mean, imagine trying to tweet about this thing.
Yes, hashtag Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, The Ultimate Championship is good, but I think hashtag Super Street Fighter 2 X Grandmaster Challenge is better, at Capcom Unity.
It's ridiculous, it's forgettable, and it's easily the worst that the Street Fighter series has to offer. Wait, what does that say? Super Street Fighter 2 X for matching service? Grandmaster Challenge? I'm done. I'm just done.
Number 2. Melty Blood Actress Again Current Code? Wait, what?
That can't be right. Melty Blood Actress Again Current Code. What the fuck does that even mean?
Melty Blood Actress Again Current Code, apart from having quite possibly the clunkiest title of all time, is a fighting game / visual novel that actually has a decent following. The original Melty Blood was a Dojin game released for PC at Comiket in 2002. Melty Blood Actress Again is the 4th iteration of the game, and Melty Blood Actress Again Current Code is the name of the arcade and PC port of the PlayStation 2 version of this 4th game.
Confused yet? Because I certainly am. What is it with fighting games and having to stick random words and phrase combinations onto a slightly different different version of a game, I can't be the only one who thinks this is and always has been a stupid practice, right?
I mean, we already have Melty Blood, which in and of itself doesn't make any fucking sense, and then we had the phrase actress again, which probably makes some sort of sense within the context of the game, but I honestly can't be bothered to find out because finding the entry point into this series is like trying to find a 4-leaf clover up a leprechaun's ass without a flashlight. You'd think it'd be as simple as playing the original Melty Blood, but that game's actually a sequel to a game called Kagetsu Toya, which is a sequel to another game called Tsukihime.
Fucking Dojin games, man. This is Toho all over again. Christ.
Number 1. Wampum.
Oh boy, here we go. So, you can criticize this title through a couple of different lenses. First, it's kind of racist towards Native Americans, or at the very least insensitive. Anyone who's ever heard the phrase smoke 'em peace pipe should hopefully understand why.
And the word womp in this context also sounds like a pejorative fake word that's used in a similar manner as when people use the phrase ching chong ding dong to describe the way Chinese people speak. So yeah, combine those two not words and add in box art that features a very derogatory depiction of a Native American, and you can see why this title is problematic.
However, looking at it through a different lens, and ignoring the racist connotations, we're left with nothing but an unappealing and bland title.
Couldn't they have called it something else? In Japan, the game's known as Sayuki World 2 Tenjokai no Majin, or the Evil Spirit of Heaven, and featured a boy with a spear fighting against Oni and other creatures from Japanese mythology who collected magic potions, samurai helmets, and other power-ups along the way. As opposed to Wampum, where you play as a Native American boy who fights against Oni and other creatures from Japanese mythology, collects magic potions, samurai helmets, and other power-ups along the way.
So they went to the trouble of changing the premise and the title of this game as well as the main character's appearance, but they didn't bother changing any of the other clearly Japanese elements of this game? The fuck?
It's really unfortunate that this game got so mistreated when it came to the West, as it's actually a really good game that's probably one of my personal favorites on the NES, but as it stands, it's a game that features a title that's bland and uninspired at best and downright racist at worst, and that's why it's my pick for the worst video game title of all time.
So now I want to hear from you. What do you think is the worst video game title of all time? Because there's certainly a lot to choose from.